Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Niroo. Thank you for being here. I'm really pleased to have an opportunity to share with you a very comprehensive report, which is full of benchmarking, which, as we all know, year after year in this sector, benchmarking help us to think about what others are doing and how we might be able to take advantage of it. I've been working in this sector for about 30 years. I work with leadership team of associations and help them to go from good to great performance by making sure they're using technology in a way that actually works for them better. The sponsors of the report is a software company called Advanced Solutions International, ASI. They've been around for 32 consecutive years. And 100% of their clients are membership organizations. They never have dealt and dealing with commercials, simply because running an association is a lot more complex than many people realize. So if you're, just dealing with general CRM stuff, sometimes people get caught out with the complexity. There's a large community of specialist consultants available. But the thing that the organization is most proud of is its retention of its clients. It's unprecedented. We have a 94% retention year on year. The technology that it offers is used by many different types of organizations, and many of whom are very similar to you. They have many major products. There's IMIS, which is, the flagship product is engagement management. That includes everything to do with CRM, content management, and association-specific technologies. They have a leading top-class management that's been voted as a leading education system in the sector for 5 years. They have open water for complex abstracts, application reviews, and then they have a mobile app for all year-round engagement so that the member doesn't have to seek information from you. You can just, push notifications. They're very good at what they do. The users really do love them. There is the Gartner G2 independent report platform. If you're not familiar with Gartner or G2, bookmark it. If you ever want to buy software and you want to get independent view about the software, this is the place to go. This is not from the providers. This is Gartner has a complex model that they assess, and they create a chart, a grid that they allow people like us to share as a participant. ASI is very, very, very proud to be a #1 rated by its clients over 6 consecutive years. It's a very big deal, to love your clients and make sure they're successful. Getting into the meat of the report now, which is really why you're here. This is the 9th year this report has been conducted. And every year it has grown in size and in its spread. It was born in the first year in the United States and Canada, but on the second year, it started coming into UK, Europe, and Asia Pacific sort of sector. The report has got 25 questions that takes about 35 minutes to complete. And there are 6 major areas that it covers: technology, member acquisition, engagement, retention, and also there's executive perspectives. And then this year, and usually because of the data, union specific came in. In the previous years, union participations, this is obviously people are invited to partake in a research confidentially, and you never know who takes part, right? But the unions have taken a big sort of participation this year, which is very interesting. And that reflects what's happening out there. They're having to update their technology significantly. They too, in the union sector, are struggling with better engagement and advocacy and activism. So they're looking for technology to do a better job for them. The most significant thing about the report is that both in the United States and the United Kingdom, there has not yet been a research published with 1,400 and odd completed surveys. This is a very significant number. Most of the reports in the US are about 800 or 900. Sometimes they hit 1,000. So it's really very, very good stuff to have so much data coming in to share with you. In terms of its spread, 70% of it is North America, and 30% of it is international. And out of those 30% international, about 60–70% of it is UK and Europe, and the rest of it is Asia Pacific, substantially in Australia. There are different types of organizations who have partaken. Now, the survey does not say, this is you. They say to the survey who they are and how they describe themselves. So as you can see here, 22% were professional associations. Others describe themselves as membership organizations, not for profit. And then there is trade and professional and regulatory bodies. This year, there was a significant increase on regulatory bodies taking part compared to previous years. And again, that's reflective of what's happening in the market. They have got very sophisticated compliance systems that they've been living with for years, and they've been afraid of changing it. And they are being forced to have to upgrade because of the cloud technologies. So they're getting more active in learning more about what's possible. The survey also asks people to describe themselves in their roles. Now, the truth is, in vast majority of participants who are employing less than 200 staff, many of the staff have got more than one hat they wear in a particular week. So the numbers in the report, when you look at the actual report, doesn't add up to 100% exactly, because some people describe themselves doing more than one job. But this year, these were the significant increases in participation. So there was a 24% were in marketing and comm, 23 in education, and there was a very big increase of participants in education sort of side of the organization. In terms of, again, the demographics and the change that we've seen in the data, although the number of participants more than doubled this year to nearly 1,500 completed respondents, there was changes in the participation level. And as you can see, there was a reduction in the number of organizations who took part by 18% in not-for-profits, but there was an increase in the trade associations and regulatory bodies. So the value of the data is more even meaningful because of that move. In terms of what they look like financially, their annual income, as you can see here, a breakdown. This year, because of last 3 years data, a new category of annual income was added, which was 50 million and plus. And rather surprisingly, this year, there was a very big significant take-up of those membership organizations. In fact, there was a very significant participation in the survey of 50 million and plus associations. But you can see the breakdown. And I think, again, it's a very good spread. I'm sure you fit in there somewhere in the annual income structure there. In terms of the changes that they have reported on their annual income, the under 1 million have seen a reduction. And in fact, the top 3 have seen generally a slight reduction in their annual income. But in terms of the change and participation, the bigger organizations, the bigger associations have done significantly more, better, if you will. So in terms of the technology, the questions we're covering, what is in your stack? What's really interesting here is digital transformation. 5 years ago, there was no digital transformation in the survey. And I think, 6 years ago, I think. And I think 5 years ago, it started to get introduced. And it's amazingly good news that today, 82% of the respondents have said that they have got a digital transformation plan. Who knows how comprehensive or how wonderful it may be, but the most important thing is there is a plan, because as you know, failing to plan is planning to fail. So, it doesn't matter if the plan isn't perfect, but what are we actually thinking about it? Are we now consolidating? Because what happened post-COVID, right? Before COVID, I used to have 8 CEOs around the table. Each CEO would say, this is how we're using technology in this part of our organization. So one CEO may say, we've just implemented a really superb event management system. And then the other CEOs will be very curious to know how he's getting on with it, what technology he's using, and how they might be able to do it in a year or two. And then you have another CEO reporting a different thing. In came COVID, right? And now, very quickly, everybody had to do events online. Everybody have to do courses online. Everything is online. So we're all in the same spot now. So now it's really, you know, there was a sort of a run to the green fields, grab anything you could to do things. And some people have been stuck with that for the last 2 or 3 years. But you do need to think about digital transformation for the entire organization. And if you are one of those minorities that are not in this majority, you know, it's really important for you to do that. I'm going to ask you to help us by participating and telling us about something about you. And I hope you partake in this poll that Gordon is going to bring up. Gordon, can you bring up the poll? In this report, there was also, you know, questions about the adoption of AI, because as you know, AI, you know, adoption and, you know, has actually taken off over the last 18 months. And now, of course, it's prevalent everywhere. But maybe you can look at the poll in front of you and choose, you know, on the first poll, you know, what kind of an AI, we're doing the first poll here, you know, the number one. What kind of an AI guidance are you providing to your members, you know, for your members? You know, maybe you can have a look and tell us whether you are, or maybe you're not doing any of them, you know, but it'd be curious to know if you are doing anything. Are you providing AI best practices? Are you advising them about security and privacy? You know, where are you in relation to AI? Gordon, maybe there aren't many people. Maybe, you know, when it's done, you could bring up the result. Are you there, Gordon?
Yeah. I'm just looking. It's got 3 out of 6. I think the others are thinking.
Okay. Thinking is good. You get more value.
Oh, actually, I've done all these on one. I tell you what it is. It's all on one poll here. Look. So we've got all 4 questions actually, rather than individually.
Yeah, we have 4 polls to do as we walk through the report. I think you probably have set all these up in one poll as opposed to...
I have actually, yeah. So
Can you help with question 5? It says untitled question, choice 1 or 2.
Forget that.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's only the 4 we do.
Yeah, if you actually do the 4, then at least I know it should have been staged slightly differently, but at least we'll have all of the answers. Just zoop through all of them, and then we've got them. Five out of 6, just one more.
I think I've only completed 2 of the questions. I'm sorry, I didn't see those as. Are you able to put it back up? Sorry, it's always me.
It's there. It's still there. I haven't ended the poll.
I've done the same, Barney.
Oh, good. Phew.
Mine's disappeared, and I've only done the first 2
Mine's
questions.
disappeared, yeah, I submitted. I'm afraid. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, because it disappears when you submit it. Mine's gone.
Oh, I see. Can you see that?
Right. Okay. So on the first one, you know, not currently advising. So, you know, we've done, I think this is the 5th webinar we've done internationally and in the US about the report. We send out the report, first of all, to the people who partake in it end of last year as a big thank you for taking part. And then, you know, earlier this year, we started releasing it gradually to the wider sector audience. And what I'm seeing here is actually very common with all the other survey results that we've captured. So essentially, you know, you're at the early stage of trying to figure out how to advise. And I think this is going to become more and more important to you. And I think there's going to be more and more resources coming your way for what it's worth. So keep your eyes open and keep in touch and keep close to membership world, because I think they're likely to be the channel to communicate resources for you, more to do with AI. But going back to the survey and the results, there are associations who are using it. And, you know, some are going to get into trouble and others are not. But generally speaking, the general attitude towards adoption of AI is very positive. You know, 86% feel that it's going to increase their efficiency. That's a very significant number. Really, there's never before been technology that people have said so quickly and such a high number that it's going to make a big difference. So what that means is you can't ignore any of this. You have got to start deep thinking about AI and its governance. 25% feel that they need better understanding before they can provide guidance about their members. So we were hoping that that number will be significantly higher, because I should tell you from my own activities in this sector that commercial organizations with adoption of AI pay least amount of attention to what is called AI governance. That is very low down the list of their priorities. However, that is number one on an association's list of priorities. How you bring AI into the organization is very important in relation to your membership base, your organization culture. So I would urge you to actually, if you are making adoptions, to do it very, very cautiously, but maybe slow down a little bit and get your head around governance first. Anyway, it's going to be a very big area. I'm sure next year is going to dominate the report. In terms of the investments that the respondents are making, it's really interesting. They're actually budgeting, to spend, money. So 35% have reported that they actually are investing in AI technologies. And the other popular areas of investment is upgrading the CRM or association management software. Again, there are very many associations out there with outdated core enterprise systems. And it's going to be progressively a challenge, particularly with AI coming in, if you don't have that core enterprise system set up properly, because AI means data, data means AI, as you learn more about it. But learning management system used to be fairly low down. It used to be like 6 or 7, and it's now shot up to number 3. And that's because of the revenue that is creating and the discovery that online resources can provide a lot of income to the organization. In terms of what they're going to be doing in terms of the money they're going to be spending in comparison to last year, you can see here that the predominant change coming out of nowhere is artificial intelligence. Most associations with a capital expenditure over £10,000 have to go through resource and finance committees and get, board council approval. There's a whole sing and dance, that you have to do, spend a lot of money. And the reason this is happening is because a lot of these investments are under that £10,000 bracket. And that's a danger, that you could populate in your organization lots of subscriptions and more distribution of data and lose control of what's happening. This will obviously grow very significantly. The second poll, I don't know if you can bring the results up, was asking you what kind of problems you're trying to address. So maybe we can look at those results scored and see what was said. So the actual quiz has come up rather than the results. Just so you know. Can't hear you.
Just saying they can I think you can just redo it again with question 2.
Oh, well, they've already gone through it. Let's not do that. If you can't bring the results up, that's okay. I think you ask folks to actually do the whole 4 areas. So yeah. It's okay. Let's just carry on. So the other area of the report was acquisitions, engagement, and retention. And as ever, it's really important to concentrate on engagement, because engagement changes as a society around us changes, and value proposition and perception of value changes. Therefore, engagement changes. However, that all said, 54% have reported an increase in new member acquisitions, which is really very significant. In the previous years, it's always in double digits, but seldom do you see it overgo 50%. So this year it was a 54% increase. Actually, last year was 47%. So, I mean, that was quite big then, but this has gone up this year by another 3%. Only 13% reported loss in members. So last year was 23%. sorry, 25%. Last year, 25% were reporting that they were losing members. This year, 13% are reporting. So retention is obviously playing a lot stronger now in terms of what's happening out there. And when we look at year on year, you can see here the changes that's been taking place. So, you know, there's been a very significant increase in 2004 in terms of but if you look at over the last 30 and 50 years and even 60 years of membership patterns, I don't think you see this as an unusual sort of activity in this time of period in our lives. Whenever there's been very significant crises around the world, for whatever the reason, be it wars or inflations and so on and so forth, there's always been a spike with membership, you know, and I think we're just going through the COVID and uncertainties in the world right now, and therefore this increase fits that pattern of long-term historical analysis. But in terms of year-on-year comparison, it's obviously great news that there is more members coming into the funnel. Looking at how new members are being acquired. So if membership is growing, how are you growing it? What are you actually doing? So 48% of the respondents reported that the new member acquisition increased, and they were asked, what are the top 3 things that you did that you think contributed to that? And as you can see here, email, social media, and chapter recruiting were by far, you know, the sort of a lead activities in acquiring new members. So you probably are doing that yourself now, but if you're not, you know, if you're not maximizing on your ability with social media, maybe it's an area you should be thinking about. You know, how can you make some improvement, some increase in activities? Because there's lots of evidence that suggests that it really does give you the return on investment. So whatever sector you're in, however skeptical you may be about social media, there's evidence to believe that, you know, you can do better with it. In terms of overall engagement, not surprisingly, there's been a significant increase. There's been a 38% increase in event attendance. And of course, that plays a very high score in engagement. 31% saw greater awards participation. So that really stands out very highly compared to previous years. So something is going on there. You know, maybe more associations are thinking without having to increase the operating effort, because it does take a lot of heavy lifting to manage awards, right? There's a lot of work involved in that, but there's a lot of technology nowadays can do 80% of the work for you. So maybe that's contributing towards some associations actually, you know, originating or reigniting, you know, historical awards participations. But the most incredible thing is that 25% boosted retention rates, and that is fantastic. You know, Gartner has published reports year after year after year. It costs 7.3 times more money to get a new member than to keep a member. So, you know, it really is everything that we've all known for decades. We've really got to figure out a way how to engage, because engagement means retention. So these increases are really quite high. You know, 38% increase in event attendance. So yes, it's hybrid events, but more people are coming to physical events. So if you have had hesitations about maybe do we increase physical event opportunities, there's good reason to believe that you might be able to make incremental improvements. Retention rates, you know, as we see here, have gone up by 25%. And then we get to, you know, what is getting in the way of improving retention? So your retention has increased, but what's getting in the way of increasing it even more? And these are the top 3, these are the top reasons that have been reported. Budgetary constraints. That usually has meant something that needs to be invested or to do something to, you know, it's mostly to do with technology when people talk about budgetary constraints. But forgot to renew is very close behind. Statistically was 2 points in it. And I think that should be of some grave concern, you know, because most associations are very good in sending reminders, and really beating the drum about renew in 90 days before the renewal. And yet it's been reported that the reasons members don't renew is because they forget. So I think, maybe it's back to basics. Maybe it's worth remembering that people do forget to do things, and we should not stop about, hammering the message. And about that, how do we do that? They were asked, what do you do in terms of the renewals and retentions? Excuse me. Number one tool method has been emails. And that really has been the case year on year on year. However, what's come out of the blue from nowhere is the use of multimedia. So, video communications is really what is meant by multimedia. Now there is such a proliferation of tools and options to create multimedia very cost effectively, not necessarily Hollywood standards, but credible enough to be used for short periods of time. So what's going to emerge here is your ability to manage the multimedia assets. You can't have videos here and there and everywhere. You got to think about the digital transformation, digital assets, digital footprint, tracking, and using that tracking to push more content out there. But, so think about where do you put your multimedia content? And there are multimedia platforms. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to have anything built. There are solutions out there that can help you to do that. And then, of course, nothing beats the good old fashioned of hi, Jack. This is Niroo from ABC Association. I spoke to you last year. You're going to have a baby then. How's the baby today? And by the way, don't forget to renew. So, poll 3, we ask you to do that. I think we can't see the results there, but just to remind you what was sort of we were trying to cover in there was what kind of things are really important here. What is agile billing capability, for example. Some people have got many classifications, and sometimes there's a very good reason for having that, because what you're trying to do is to wrap the money around the value proposition. The problem is the billing complications. And suddenly you get IT and operations throwing their hands up in the air about how they're going to process it. So I think, if you are upgrading your CRM, you've got to pay a lot of attention to make sure that you're getting a billing system integral to your membership system so that none of these issues come up, because there is plenty of technology solutions out there for you to be able to address complexities in billing. But the biggest problem has been what they call customization. This is when your supplier has customized, and definition of customization means something was created at a coding level that requires maintenance. In technology world, every technology provider will say to you, I can do whatever you want. If you say to them, can you connect it to Toaster? Yes. The question is, who's paying for it? And always you're going to pay for it. And the problem with that is that you're going to keep on paying for it. And then when you end up with 6 or 7 of these, when one breaks, 3 of the others will break. If you are in that situation, which may be the case, you've got to get out of it as soon as you can. It's really very important. That should be the number one priority. In terms of the perspectives from the senior executives, the C-suite team, what is most important? Unsurprisingly, increasing engagement is number one. Remember, engagement means different things to different people, and there is a huge generational change taking place. So you've got to look at the member personas again, not put it in a filing cabinet, and think about how the persona drives the engagement. And then, of course, there's the digital transformation planning. And most interestingly, and this has not happened before, number 3 is increasing revenue through non-subscription income. So what a member pays a normal fee, that's fine, but how can we increase income through other activities, through advertising, through other products and resources, through sponsorship, through job boards, whatever the means may be possible. That has become the 3rd most important goal for 2024-25. So if it isn't yours, should ask yourself, why isn't it? Because you don't want to be too comfortable with money coming in. In terms of goals, as you can see, the change here compared to last year. So generating, more income and having a workable digital transformation plan has pushed up in terms of importance, and member engagement continues to be the key requirement. Remember, engagement means different things to different people, and that changes seasonally and most certainly changes every year. When they were asked, what are your greatest challenges that you see? Number one is their customer relationship management system or their association management system, and the extensive customizations that have been done that is prohibiting them from switching systems. Because when you come to do it and you got 6 different systems relying in a tapestry of confusing integrations, data flowing, not flowing, when you take 2 or 3 out, the other 2 become problematic. Here's the good news. That is yesterday. You should not be concerned about that. Today, pretty much all technology providers know how to deal with it, and they can deal with it for you. So you don't have to, go from here to the moon. You can change and upgrade your core system and gradually change the other systems over a period of years if you wanted to. So don't be deterred from making a significant change with your CRM system, because without a solid foundation, everything becomes very hard. If you don't have a proper, solid record of a member record, I challenge you, what else can you do? How much time gets wasted, trying to do things? And all of this has come about because of the cloud. Cloud technologies require, number one, security. Security is number one. And because security is number one, it has changed the technology provider's ability to do things. And that's why many of your providers may struggle to give you this cloud technology, so they continue to seduce you to stay with the upgrades, to stay in the hole that you're in. Because candidly, you're just a cash cow, but is holding you back. And I think you can see here the change in the importance. So the importance of putting technology in the cloud, constantly getting upgraded, not having to budget for massive, expensive upgrades, has become really important. So if you haven't got it on your radar, there's good data and evidence here to suggest maybe you guys should get around the table and think about it. So the top big 3 challenges seen for 24-25 is enhancing member engagement, addressing digital transformation challenges, and then making sure that there is diversity, equality, and inclusion for all members and staff. This has become a very predominant consideration now. It's always been there. It's always been in the top 15, but it's never really come up this high. And this is the first time that is, getting so much attention. So again, if you are not thinking about these areas, food for thought could be for you to think about it. The last poll was about volunteering management, because this is a great time to capitalize on volunteers right now. And I think the poll was trying to find out, where are you with it? Lastly, in summing up the report, there was overall consensus calculations from the model that try to determine general feeling and sentiments from the respondents. So the fantastic news is that 67% of the respondents are extremely confident about the future. And that measurement of future is encapsulated by retention, acquisition of new members, and greater engagement. Those are the 3 drivers that drives that calculation. So 67% are feeling really good. And for 7% has not been the lowest in the last 9 years, but it definitely is among the lowest, quadrant, if you will. So that's a fantastic news. And I hope that's the case with all of you around the table. So really less than 1% were concerned about their future, in terms of how they see it. In terms of generational breakdown, Gen Z now, as you know, is become a big thing. And you probably use demographics in your personas and your member management. But word of caution is that since post-COVID, the behaviors have got mixed up. So you're getting, for example, baby boomers are showing attributes of Gen Z, which shouldn't happen, but it's happening. And that's because of the digital evolution and revolution that's taken place. So be careful with it. But here's a quick snapshot about what they're thinking. So these is the top goals and challenges by generation. So the baby boomers are looking at non-dues membership fees. Gen Z users are looking at member engagement. Millennials are concerned about digital transformation. And again, Gen Zers are into digital transformation. So this is a better way of looking at generations and their, interest levels. Similarly, when you look at top challenges, baby boomers are seeing data silos as a major challenge. On the other end of the spectrum, you can see AMS CRM is not in the cloud as a challenge. So, and then when you look at it from the top concerns, digital transformation seems to be prominent for every category. So, it's important to be mindful of it. And of course,
Niroo, can I just interrupt a second? I didn't quite understand the perspective on those last few slides that we were looking at it from. So their goals and challenges by generation. Do you mean by staff inside the organizations?
I beg your pardon. Yes, I beg your
Okay.
pardon. Yes, I beg your pardon. Yeah. I'm sorry for lack of clarification. Yeah, as a respondent, how did they see it? And then they fall into these buckets. So your younger staff members, if you will, are much more concerned about digital transformation capability of your organization than maybe others are. Certainly, Gen Zers are. So artificial intelligence is going to play a big part. And then finally, what are the issues? And you can see here, the Gen Zers are looking for 50% to have a plan, have a strategy, plan and strategy. For some reason, although a lot of people are planning their transformation, it doesn't seem to have filtered through the organization in its cohesiveness. It doesn't seem to have got through the organization in terms of what its aims and objectives are. So maybe there is that. Maybe that's where the disconnect is, because you can't report you're doing planning more, and then find 50% of your community saying, well, actually, I don't know if we have a good enough plan. I don't know if the plan ties with our strategy. Something is not quite sitting right there, but it will come out in the future, because when you look at the future and see the future, they feel positive about the future. So there is optimism, that things will get better for everybody. And finally, with the unions, this has been a shocker, because unions for years have always been, in the lower 1.5–2% of respondents. This year, they significantly have grown. They've jumped out as a major outlier. And these are the reasons, these are the key things that they're concerned about, and how they're looking at bringing about, improvements in their organization. But in terms of their top goals, is enhancing and improving the tools that they have digitally to engage their members. And they have got a lot of different databases for a lot of different reasons. Some of them are for regulatory requirements, and they have to do it. But, member engagement, as you can see, is playing a big part. But 63% of them are very confident about their future, which is always good to hear. There is a full copy of this report available. You can download it. I'm sure in an email that Gordon will send you, there'll be a link that you can click and you can go and download the report. I would recommend you look at it. I think about 11,000–12,000 have been downloaded already. It's a very useful report. It's got a lot of more detail in there. This was just to give you a quick sort of a 20-minute heads up about, what sort of stands out. But if you have any comments or questions that you want to talk about in terms of how some of the reports may relate to you, more than happy to try to add value by doing that, and help you to think about it. And thank you for listening. That was it, Gordon.
Yeah, Niroo, great. That's really, really insightful, actually. And I'm sure everybody will want to have a copy of that, and particularly when they start to measure it against their own goals. Because we've got a bit of time left, it'd be really good to have a bit of a chat with everybody that's here. I'm just going to stop the recording, actually, because I want to make this. Where's my recording button?